So I sent it.
Just trying to make sure my phone works because we're going to go on the road next week. So
Yeah, I emailed it to him directly too, I think, just now.
Okay, he just emailed you again.
Yeah, I'll send it.
There it goes.
There it is.
Okay, and I just sent it to Parker too. So let's see.
Okay, go away from me.
Get everything set up.
Okay, David's in now.
Okay. And I guess we'll just hang out. We'll just start, and if Parker comes, he can join us when we get here. Let's see. Okay, so did everybody have a chance to kind of just read this case study?
Yes.
This is okay. I read it once through, and then just kind of did a review today about it. Did anybody already take the quizzes on it? Was it?
I did.
Yeah, I took them.
How was it? Was it hard like the other ones are sometimes?
This one I didn't think so. The other one I thought was terrible.
Yeah, there's
Very
some
confusing.
there's some questions that especially that other one, the one on motivation, where they asked some questions that weren't really in the documents. I felt.
Yeah, and I didn't do very good on that quiz.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the first questions that it's going to take us to is going to talk about the firing of Stepankic. And then I don't know if everybody saw the very last page of the case study, the memo.
Yes.
You see that? I'm just going to do this really quick. So I have it pulled up right here. So the first question that it asks says, imagine you are Merton and it's time for your 9 o'clock a.m. meeting with Tevins and Harris. What position would you advocate in that meeting? What do you think, Tina? Like what? Oops, that's going to be really confusing.
Okay. Sorry, I pushed the wrong thing. Well, I mean, it's one of those things where he's been talked to a couple of times, if I remember correctly. That I'm like trying to scan it right now. I read it earlier in the week. I do think that it is good that that Bert Harris that he's bringing it to HR's attention and not just doing it himself. That way he has someone there to listen to him as well. But since it's been the third incident during the last year, I think that, and he's been warned several times. So I mean, he's had warnings. He's been given multiple chances. So I think I would be on his supervisor's side. As hard as that probably is sometimes, I think that's probably where he needs to be.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. I thought that, I mean, they did have the third incident, and even though it says that he was a good supervisor, they needed to send that message, which is also one of the other questions. What, let's see. David, what do you think? What's the message that it would send to the company if they do decide to fire Stepankic?
Dick, and I think everybody would think twice about not following the safety rules. I myself wouldn't fire him. I would suspend him for several months or whatever to, they haven't really done anything but verbally talked to him. So I wouldn't have fired him. I would have just kicked him off the job for, say, you got a month or 2 months without pay. If you can want to come back, then thing. But that would give kind of a similar message to the people and to know that the company's serious about following the guidelines.
Oh, okay. So maybe like just because it says he's a supervisor, so maybe like demoting him in a way to make him like under somebody else that would be able to
Yeah.
watch him.
Yeah, you could demote him, or like I said, I would tell him, yeah, he's got a month off without pay, and if you can come back and follow the rules, you can come back. But if not, don't come back. So.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think
I
that's
did that
actually
with one employee. Yeah. I did that with one employee years ago. I had harassing another employee, like we talk about harassment. There was 2 of them harassing another employee. I walked out and said, both of you need to go home. And if you can't follow the rules and stop this, then don't come back. One came back and one didn't. So.
okay. Yeah, I think that's probably more fair than anything to.
Yeah, he's been a lifelong employee, so you got to get serious, but, it sounds like it's a company town there. There's no other work, so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and I guess that kind of leads into this other question that says, well, Robin, maybe you can answer this one for us. What are the implications for workers, families, supervisors if he is fired?
Robin, are you there?
Oh, I thought he asked somebody else. Sorry.
Oh, no, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. I'm getting back talking from David's phone, so I'm in the other room. Okay, I think some of the things that would happen is it could take a hit to company morale, so I think doing what David's suggesting is actually better because it shows that they're serious about company safety, but at the same time, it will make everybody else think before they act, and so hopefully they'll perform things safely. And also, like David says, this sounds like it's a company town, and if he's fired from this job, it could actually create a situation where they're going to actually have to move because he might not be able to find other work.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I totally agree. I think especially because it is kind of like the smaller town and that kind of atmosphere, it would be really important for even just company morale. I mean, because if he was this lifelong employee and they all of a sudden just decide to fire him because of this, like, that wouldn't be that fair. So I'll just move on. So this next part, I don't know if you guys read the thing for discussion, but it wants us to split up into a couple of groups and then look at a couple different of the exhibit, like some of the numbers and things. So maybe me or Tina and I can we can be group 1, and then Robin and David can be group 2, and then Lane and Parker can be group 3.
How would we do groups on here?
Well, so we would probably just look at it individually, each of us, and then talk about it. Like, that was kind of one of the things that I was wondering about too. We could just maybe do it all together if we wanted to. Instead, what would you guys prefer to do? Would that be easier? Just to kind of work through the 3 different group problems and then.
I think it might be easier just because since we're online, it's kind of difficult to split into groups.
Okay. Yeah. No, I was thinking that same thing might be a little bit easier. So, is there a reason that we have two Davids?
I got off my phone and went to the computer because I was getting feedback.
Okay.
So I don't know why the other one hasn't left us yet. So
Maybe I can.
just ignore that other David. So,
Okay, are you still here?
yep.
Okay, so I guess you can like kick people out. So I kicked out the other person.
Oh, good.
Okay, so maybe I'll just throw. Oh, nothing. Let's see. So we'll just talk about. Oh, where did it go? Hmm. I lost my paper. Oh, it's right here. Okay, so man, I'm losing my stuff. Sorry, guys. Okay, so for the group one part, they want us to look. If you guys all have the document open, the 22-page one.
Yep.
So what the first one wants us to do is look at the exhibits 3 and 7. And the question that it's asking us is, when safety improves, does productivity decrease or increase? So and actually I think, let's see, I have it still up on my screen too, so I'll go up to exhibit 3. So this is total production employee hours by production department. So we have employee hours and then works total. So what we can do is we can divide works total by how many hours there were, and we'll just do it for this last one in August, I think. So if we take let's see. So we would take the total numbers of hours worked divided by the production total, which was 19.4. And then we get 34. Let's see. So that's 34 hours per ton is what it's saying. And then we're going to compare that to Exhibit 7, which is, if we want to look down there. So this is going to be the serious injuries by production department. So August of 1991, it was 5.45. Compare this here. So as we're looking, let's see. So as we look from like 1987 and just go down, we can see that pretty generally that number has gone down over the years, as well as if we look at the basic production, we can kind of just tell that this number will also be lower every year. If we were to go back and divide them each out, we would see that. So what do you guys think that means as far as that first question that I asked was, when safety improves, does productivity decrease or increase?
It increases.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And Parker, what do you think? Why do you think that is?
I think there's a lot of crossover between the operations structure that gets built around creating safety and efficiency being put into place. Anytime you standardize, efficiency goes up, and so does safety, simply because, yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of crossover whenever standardization occurs between efficiency and safety.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was also thinking as kind of too when the years go on, I mean, they're obviously going to get more productive, I think, as far as like with technology and things like that. So that definitely helps with the production. And then also with the safety over the years, hopefully they've been getting better and better on their safety every year too. So let's see. So group. Does anybody else have anything that any other ideas they have about that or anything they want to add before we move on?
No, I have the same idea. When I race home from work, there's always somebody dodging in and out of all the cars and racing to the next light. But by the end of the road, we pretty much end up at the same place at the same time. So it's like that forklift thing when they dropped it to 4 miles an hour or something. Their productivity didn't go down. In fact, it went up. You got there more efficiently. Same thing with this kind of stuff. They just become more efficient and better at following the rules, and it just makes things go better. So.
Yeah, I just standardization, standard procedures. You have a plan on how to accomplish the work instead of people just using their own judgment, which, would increase efficiency as well as lower injury.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Thanks, guys. Okay, so for the next one, I want us to look at Exhibit 5, which I just have that up on my screen if anybody wants to look at that as well. And it asks us to figure out which injury numbers are improving and which are going up.
Looking at the exhibit overall, I think that overall they're all improving. You're going to have a random one here or there that's going to go up because they are accidents are going to happen. But overall, the number of accidents and the contributing conditions are improving.
Yeah, I agree with Robin looking at this. I mean, from when they started in 1987, they had 320 serious injuries, and by August of 1991, they only had 18. So I guess
Did I lose you guys?
that was less than 200. Oh, it's 151 total for January through August of 91. I see. Okay. So overall, it looks like it's going down.
Oh, they tricked us. You got to add those last three numbers together to see how the comparison is. So.
But see, I was confused on that too. But because look at the first one, it says January through August, 151. Then it has July and August separate, broken out. So I don't think you add those three together.
Oh, okay. So they're just pointing out, but that's only half a year, right?
Yeah, a little more, yeah.
So you kind of have to, whatever that proportion is. So, yeah, what's August? January, March.
Just multiply all the January through August numbers by 1.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then basically they were pretty close to the 1990 number of 225 for total injuries.
Yeah, in fact, they right on or one above or so, 1.5 above. So.
Yeah, so if one of the next part of this section wants us to categorize the types of injuries that are improving compared with the types that are not. So I wonder what you guys think of that. Like, how would we? Obviously, they're categorized already into contributing conditions and then contributing actions. But we can kind of just look and see by the trends maybe from the years. Like, for example, the inadequate guard, the first one. I mean, from 1987 to 1990, that one was down by 19.
Yeah, if you go to effective tools and times the 10 by 1.5, that went up to 15 instead from 12 to 15. So
It seems as a general trend that contributing conditions are going down, but contributing actions they're having more incidents with. So employee safety mindfulness is lessening. That didn't make any sense. Work with it.
No, it made perfect sense. No, I think you're right. The contributing actions is where they're having issues now. The factory itself has improved the contributing conditions, but employee actions have not improved as quickly.
yeah, so it is. The bottom actions are the ones that are going up. So
Yeah, and I think maybe that, I mean, there's a lot of that in a lot of different industries. Um, yeah, they'll put in all these safety nets, like for example, that 4 mile per hour forklift. But if somebody just chooses not to do it, well, then their little safety net that they put in place really wasn't. It's not going to do anybody any good if they weren't doing it. So that is interesting. So just probably it's just human error, really. Is that what you guys would say about that?
yeah, ignoring the policies and procedures. So
Was there anything in the case study? Does anyone remember if September through December, is that a slow season or anything like that? Was that brought up?
I don't remember.
I don't remember it saying anything about that.
Okay, because it just seems like the, if we're extrapolating at the, proportion rate that we're using, it seems like they're having a lot more employee error than they did any of like the 4 previous years in contributing actions.
I think the reason why is the data on this. Linda Mertens was actually, it says it happened in September 6th of 1991 when this report was done. And so the rest of 1991 had not been completed. She was coming up with the action plan for 92.
Yeah,
and that's why we only have January through August data.
Right. Well, I guess I wasn't very clear. I was just saying that it seems like there's a shift, almost a really big one between 1990 and 1991. Because like if you look back to 1987 even, like for example, improper position, if we, extrapolate, that puts us at 153 improper position injuries, and that's over 1987 by 15 injuries, and that's their highest of the last 4 years. So, and that's kind of a trend continuing through quite a few of them, that 91 is proportionately very high compared, and so it's kind of interesting that it seems like there's almost a switch because from 87 to 90 they were going down for the most part, and then all of a sudden 91 they have a spike of injuries.
Yeah, at the front of the paper it says it's been a very difficult summer. The plant had to stretch to meet several large orders in July, so by July they had to get all their orders out, so that might be their busy season was the first half of the year. So
I'm pretty sure it mentioned in the beginning of the article too that this particular plant had to catch up or was kind of behind as far as production compared to some of the others. If I don't really remember. I think I remember reading that, but I could be wrong.
yeah.
Yeah. That is kind of interesting though, because it is kind of hard to know those numbers, because we can obviously multiply them by 1.5 approximately, but we don't know the exact numbers. So but basically what we're taking away is the contributing conditions are going down, but the actions are going up pretty much in general, right?
Well, actions in general are pretty consistent or going down until 1991. And it kind of makes me think where, with that plant being behind, because contributing conditions improved, but conditions aren't pressured by overhead, by we need to catch up and other statements like that, whereas employees are supremely affected by goal setting. And hey, we've got to increase output by 25% or whatever. And so that's where employee mistakes come in. And so where you've got this plant that's trying to catch up, you have employees that are trying to move faster, i.e. the 4-mile-an-hour forklift, and you have increased injuries.
Yeah, that's a good point. Does anybody else have any ideas about that, or? Okay, so we will just move on to the next part. It's going to have us look at Exhibit 6 now. So it says we can go through the list of the injuries, and maybe we'll just all look at it on our own and see what it says. Look for common themes and causes. What can we learn about the safety at Mission Valley from this list? Maybe everybody just take a few minutes, and then when you find something, you guys turn off or unmute your microphone and just add to the conversation about it.
I guess for me, I mean, it looks to me like a lot of the common things is just, I just totally lost the word. Just, shoot, I just lost the word. Where people are just they're not thinking, they're, leaving things that, shouldn't be, like chips that are left on the floor that people are slipping on, or just not, I mean, I don't know. I lost my word. I'm sorry.
I agree. It looks like a lot of these things are due to human error because they're taking shortcuts.
Thank you, yes.
Following procedures. It looks like, instead of cleaning up the chips, they just left them there, not seeing it as a hazard, slipping on the chips. So it looks like they're just trying to cut corners where they can.
Yeah, and then slipping on the grease in the water. They need to keep their environment clean so that things aren't in their way, tripping over something slip backwards into a valve, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, that was pretty much, I think, the majority of what was on this paper was, I mean, there were some things that, well, most of them were what we were talking about, human error. So it says the problem Mission Valley still has is people, and the mistakes that they make. And from what we've looked at so far, it's pretty clear that like the easiest problems to solve for the company is, making the factory more safe for the workers. But obviously, it's hard to change people's behaviors when they, like, for example, when they just left the chips on the floor or something like that. So that's one of the challenges that Mission Valley is up against right now. So the next part is going to talk about the Mission Valley past successes and their future challenges. So this question, is there anything that you guys remember from the readings specifically? Maybe Parker, you can answer this one for us. Something specific that they did that helped them be more safe with some of the things that they did.
As far as actions or conditions?
Yeah, so like either like a procedure or something that they put into place to make the factory more safe. So if that makes sense.
Oh, I was muted. I just realized you guys didn't hear that. Sorry, just give me a second to find my spot really quick in case study. I'll have one for you.
Okay, cool.
I think one of the things that I noticed is when they had to tag things, like sending the electrician in, so they'd have to tag the power off. And that one just rang a bell with me because when I was in, let's say it was just before David and I got married, my dad was working on a big machine at his work and somebody flipped the power back on and it cut the ends of his fingers off. And so just that safety thing of tagging things off, then everybody knows that don't turn that power back on.
In fact, it's lockout, tagout. They have to actually lock it with the key that they only have. They're the only ones that can turn it back on now. So.
Well, and for something like that, it's too bad that somebody had to get like really hurt for those kinds of things to be put into place.
Of course, we've all been mentioning the forklift success, cut down all the injuries and it improved production. So by going to 4 miles an hour. So
the kind of the implementation that stood out to me was like the training that they did for like the safety committee group, the safety committees. They just were trying to arm them with better information and training. I don't know, better safety-minded training is kind of what came to my mind, and I feel like that's what they needed, where they had so many contributive actions that were the problem. It was kind of like the employee mindset, and so I think it was really important that they were trying to improve the employee education as far as safety concerns.
Yeah, great. And then one of the things that I noticed too was back in '87, they started using, or one of the central focuses that the plants had was personal protective equipment. Mm-hmm. So I think starting since 1987, there was a lot of things that were probably avoided just because of that, just because they were, and that also goes along with the training because you had to know when to wear your equipment. So. That was the thing that I noticed. Does anybody else have anything else from the reading that they noticed that helped them be more successful with their safety in the past? Okay.
Another thing I did notice was the self-closing gates on all the platforms.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure that those helped as well. Did you have one more thing too, David?
No, that was good.
Okay. Awesome. So after what we kind of discussed about earlier too, I guess, it's pretty clear that the safety concern at Mission Valley is not really the environment anymore. It's more like the people. And so some of the questions that we have here, and maybe Tina, I can ask you this one. How do we convince people to behave differently?
Training. Where I work now, we have monthly training that we have to do, and so and since it's done monthly, and it's some of it is repetitive, but it just keeps instilling the different aspects of safety and what you can do to be safe. So when you get that, repeatedly, you kind of just, it becomes ingrained. So I think that would help people to think differently and behave differently about it.
No, yeah, exactly. Like for instance, we do at my work, they have like an online kind of training center where we have these training modules that we have to learn new stuff all the time and also review past things. It's kind of a chore sometimes when you're busy at work and doing that kind of thing, but
yeah, we have the same thing, something similar where it's all online, and it's monthly, and then we have our annual training that we have to do, and it's mandatory. You have to. It's the supervisor's responsibility to do it, and there's a particular audit or something so it gets reported. So it's a manual thing where we have to, or mandatory thing that we have to do. It's not if we choose to.
Yeah. So the next question we have, maybe Lane, I can ask you this one. What would motivate the workers in the factory to be safer at their jobs?
Well, I think there's motivation to not get injured, especially if they see injuries or, have coworkers who have been involved with injury. As sad as it is, you can't always prevent injury. It's going to happen. So you can learn from others' mistakes as well. I think a challenge, though, is teaching the employees to think proactively, think about their actions. Okay, if I'm cutting corners, what could be the result of this? I think that's a challenge, in the workplace is getting people to think of what could happen or as a result of, their actions. And so, I don't know. For me, seeing injury around me would be a big deterrent for cutting corners. I want to get the job done, but I also want to go home at the end of the day.
One thing I think that's good is you can get employees watching after other employees. Like I was grinding off some hinges at a school a while back, and I had my regular glasses on, and the lunch lady came up to me and says, "Shouldn't you have safety glasses on?" I felt kind of stupid, and I put them on, So everybody watching out for everybody else helps on that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and that kind of leads us into another question that they have is there's like the culture at this facility doesn't seem to be quite as they're not caring or or they do care, but they're not actively looking for ways to make it safer, maybe. So
Yeah,
just
they think they're tough, you know.
yeah, and that was part of the reading was
I
I think
remember reading that.
it had the example of with the smelters, and they were going to start wearing more clothing, but the older generations were kind of against it, saying, you just needed to be really tough.
Yeah.
When the jobs that they were really doing were really unsafe, and then they were trying to make it safer for them, but there was this kind of backlash against that.
Yeah.
So just the last part that we'll look at is if you guys go to, it's page 21, it's almost at the very end. It's the summary for the safety, the plans for the next year. And they want us to just look at the list. Maybe we'll just run through them. And then we need to see if what are a couple things on here that we don't really think that will help that much. And then if we could just brainstorm a couple ideas about what to improve on.
I don't think the newsletter is going to be very helpful.
Yeah, I get one of those every month, and it kind of just gets thrown on the desk unless our supervisor sits down and makes us read it. So.
So maybe getting rid of the newsletter completely, or making like the newsletter a mandatory thing to read.
Yeah, we have to now sign a list that we sat down as a group and read it, and then sign off that we did read it.
We do that too. So I'm wondering if as far as this goes, if it was just taken a step further where you had to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, there's a difference between a newsletter and a safety training, so it's kind of, the newsletter's just recreational reading, I guess. So, so maybe it's not necessary.
Yeah. So maybe safety trainings that instead of like a newsletter.
Yeah. Which they probably do. So.
And I like what Tina said, though. She said that they have to sign off on it every month. So being trained on certain aspects, I think, and having it be signed off gives accountability that you already know how to do that. So.
I noticed that one of the questions, is how to involve your community or family. I don't know if you're going to ask that, but I was going to say, kind of have some companies will have family picnics where the whole company, you can go and have a family picnic, and you can probably do games and do different things, but that are teaching safety and making it fun, and that way, the younger generation learns different safety habits.
Yeah, well, and also maybe bringing family and the community to wherever they are, and that also kind of reminds people of why they want to be safe in the first place, Is like David said, I mean, you want to go home at the end of the day, right? So.
That is true.
Well, it's kind of like that supervisor that they were going to let go because he let the electrician go in many times. Maybe their emphasis on their whatever they call them, supervisors is production versus safety. Maybe they got to switch what their priorities are with the supervisors. So maybe they were pushing him to get production out more than they cared about safety at that point from his upper management. So.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they said there was a dual standard in the company, things that they know they should do and things they don't do. So.
Yeah, no, those are all good ideas. Elaine, is there anything that you could think of maybe that they could add to this list of things?
Um, I don't know of anything they could add to it. I mean, I can see the benefits of all these different things. Some, more beneficial than others. Like a safety recognition program, I don't think it'll improve safety at all. I think it's an added bonus. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but it actually, improving safety, I don't know how much of an impact that would have. But as far as adding to the list, I can't really think of anything that, protocols or anything that I would add to improve the safety performance.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Thanks for your comments.
They need to hire robots. So
Automation, yes.
automation, get the more serious, because it looks like over the years they've really reduced their problems, but now they're down to a point as well. What's going to get us to zero fatalities? Maybe robots is the answer in certain areas. So
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that was the end of our discussion for that. Do we need to talk about the doohickeys at all? Is that going okay for everybody?
yeah, I think Robin and I just finishing ours up tonight, so it'll be in there. Because we're heading out of town on Saturday, so we'll be in a car most of the weekend. So
I added mine last night, so that's done.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
I think one of the things that we need to remember is that we're supposed to come up with a problem in that area and 4 solutions for that particular problem. So we need to make each section very cohesive to each other. And so just when we're writing it, make sure that it's all cohesive to a single problem. So there's 3 specific problems, 1 in each of those areas, and 4 solutions to that one problem. So
make sure to keep that format in place.
Okay. Sounds good. So yeah, we'll just all have it done by Sunday, and then I will format it and turn it in.
great.
That sounds
Oh, we
good
need to
everybody.
talk about next week who's going to lead that. David and I will actually be camping up in Washington State, and so it's supposed to be my turn. But Parker, could you switch with me?
To lead next week?
Yes.
That'd be fine.
Okay, so if you lead next week, I'll do the following week.
Cool beans.
Okay, great.
That's why I was testing out my phone so we can at least join in, but I don't know how great it's going to be. So
Well, y'all have fun.
okay.
Yeah, we get to play with our 7 grandkids, so it'll be fun.
Nice.
Thanks.
Okay, guys, thanks
All
a
right,
lot.
well, good night, all.
Good night.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye.